The idea of liminal spaces has absolutely blown up over the past few years, with images like this and this. It's really hard to describe, but they just feel a little off. They bring back a sense of nostalgia and loneliness. The term liminal spaces refer to a place during a transitional period, something like the in-between of two states. These spaces feel familiar, yet they bring out such a strong sense of uneasiness and discomfort. When I look at them, strangely, the first thing that always comes to my mind is abandoned schools. And later on in the video, I'm going to show you what I think is the creepiest video on YouTube right now. Have you ever heard about this idea of the Uncanny Valley? It's the point where something becomes creepy when it hits that certain sweet spot between a machine and a human. We all know that this is some factory machine, which is clearly not very human and not very scary. And this is a man, which is obviously very human, but also not very scary. But the problem comes when a robot is almost human-like, and that's where things start to get a little creepy. The idea of its humanness feels familiar to our brains, and there's clearly something off about it. But how does this idea of being almost human-like translate to a space? For a liminal space, the space almost seems familiar to us, but yet distant and weird enough that our brains can't comprehend how we're supposed to feel. It's like one of those times where you revisit an old place that you haven't been to in years and see how much things have changed. Your mind still remembers the memory of how it used to be, but all you can see and feel is how totally different it is, and it brings out that sense of nostalgia and sadness. I think the idea of liminal spaces really took off when the Backrooms started to grow in popularity. If you haven't heard of the Backrooms, I mean, welcome to the internet, I guess. For the past few years, the Backrooms is an internet urban legend that exploded based on a 4chan post. It's described as a series of rooms with levels and creatures called entities that can only be entered by no clipping out of reality. It really started to take off when the VFX artist Kane Pixels released a series of videos of the Backrooms. It really shows how lonely and creepy it is traversing through the endless maze of the Backrooms, as the original 4chan post describes it as nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell heard you. The Backrooms fandom just went crazy and created tons of levels and VFX videos showing this kind of liminal horror, a place that feels so familiar yet so alien to us. A few of my favorite levels include the Poolrooms, which is a dreamlike environment of white walls and shallow water, and it gives off the feeling of being by yourself in an empty water park. It truly feels that you've entered another world, or just in a very luxurious swimming complex. The Poolrooms have this dreamlike quality to it, making it both very relaxing but very isolating and lonely at the same time. Another Backrooms level I really love is called Level Run for Your Life, which is a long endless hallway of closed rooms and exit signs in an ominous looking red light. So why is this level called Run for Your Life? I think there's no better way to explain it but just show you. The reason why this level is so cool is because it takes something familiar, corridors that we walk through in buildings, and turns it into something absolutely terrifying. Someone should really turn this into a horror game. I think chase sequences in general are my favorite part of any horror game. Okay, I think that's enough about the Backrooms. But I think you get the idea of liminal spaces being something familiar and tweaking it just enough so that it becomes lonely and creepy. If you're like me and grew up in the Singaporean education system, I think you'll remember this. Have you ever had one of those overnight school camps and you saw your school at night for the very first time? I remember when I was Sec 1, there was this night school camp thing, and I remember feeling so scared when I was walking through the hallways that I almost cried. Schools at night just feel so different to how schools usually are in the daytime. You know, the screaming crazy kids running around, and how packed the school hall always gets during morning assembly. But at night, it's just complete silence, and long dark hallways full of empty classrooms. I don't know how else to describe this feeling, but you feel like you're truly by yourself, and you truly feel alone. This contrast of school being a familiar place where you spend like 6 hours a day to a landscape that's so empty and so foreign at night, it almost feels abandoned. And that leads me to another kind of liminal space, which is abandoned places. Buildings that were once brand new and filled with people, now being left alone, overtaken by the passage of time and nature. If you're old enough, you probably remember this place called Old Changi Hospital. It's definitely an urban legend among people to be known as one of the most haunted places in Singapore. It's one of those places where you kind of like dare your friends to go and visit at night. And there's even like a 360-degree video online about the place if you want to check it out over here. Other than the haunted and paranormal aspect, it's a place with a rich part of Singapore's history. The hospital was seized by the Japanese in 1942 as an holding area for the prisoners of war. Watching the video and seeing it abandoned, even in the daytime, makes it feel eerie and unsettling. Walking across the hallways of remnants and pieces of forgotten history, thinking back on the people that used to walk these halls and passed on in these rooms. So we talked about schools at night, and we talked about abandoned places. So why not let's combine the two to create the ultimate liminal horror experience. Abandoned schools. A channel by the name of Exploring with Josh uploaded a video called My Abandoned Middle School Found My Yearbook. In the video, it shows him going back to visit his middle school that has been abandoned but not completely torn down yet. I think what makes this video special and even more creepy compared to all the other abandoned places videos you see on YouTube is because it was his middle school. There's a few times in the video where he goes like, "Oh, I remember this exact place and classroom." And it's just so surreal to think that the now abandoned classroom was once full of students, and he was one of them. To us, the viewer, it's just an abandoned hallway, a classroom. But the way he describes it, these places he walks around, brings back memories of the long forgotten. Another really creepy thing I noticed in the video is that the classrooms seem to be almost frozen in time. Writings of lessons are still on the blackboard. Books and unfinished worksheets are still inside the classroom and on the tables. It really makes you wonder about how the school got abandoned in the first place. And I wonder if the teachers knew that those writings on the board would be their last in this school. A remnant that's stuck in time, only to be discovered in the remains of the school. It's crazy to think that this video is so creepy, with no jump scares, no over-the-top acting, and it's just a bunch of guys exploring their abandoned school. Okay, just watch how he explores and remembers a place that is a fragment of his past, a time capsule overtaken by nature.
Probably should have took the other way. I remember coming down these stairs. Okay, no. This is the 7th grade side. The lunchroom, this is where I would get my lunch. So I would walk over here, obviously, and there was like a lot of you literally would have to follow this. Even though they were serving lunch right here, like where you get your tray and get your food, you still would have to go up here. There was a lot of students who would have to take a right and go up here and then go around. I mean, the lines you would start right here and the lines would still be way back out there. This is the most untouched classroom here. All their work is still on their desks. That's insane. Man, you know what's interesting though? Seeing how this place hasn't been vandalized or anything, but yet it still looks like, you can clearly tell it's abandoned just from the natural decay.
The natural decay.
Through these doors, literally through these doors, lies the auditorium, the lunchroom, full of kids. We're all eating, sitting down. I remember all this. Up there is actually seats. Not to eat, but actually to watch the performances.
As someone who spent many years in school studying and teaching in them, it would break my heart to see any of the schools I taught at to be in this state. I mean, just look at the comment section of the video. They all share the same sentiment of nostalgia and the memories they had of their time in school. And to see it broken down and abandoned, we realize that those days were far behind us, and all that's left is what we remember of it. That's the essence of liminal spaces. They remind us of memories that are lost in the passage of time, out of our reach but not forgotten. Memories of places and things beyond our human understanding. Thanks for watching.